sports cars, off-road utes, jet skis, and boats. And if you didn't need a second vehicle, you could take a fat stack of cash instead. But behind the gleaming prizes and the online hype was an unlicensed operation, accumulating a staggering $11.1 million in revenue in just over a year. This documentary aims to present an honest and unfiltered account of the case surrounding the Canterbury car dealer, Waiariki McIlroy-Jones, and his company, Jonez LRC. Waiariki McIlroy-Jones is believed to have been born in either 1999 or the year of 2000, based on reports marking him as 25 years old at the time of his sentencing in June 2026. Mcllroy-Jones was a young entrepreneur from the Canterbury town of Rangiora, and according to his own digital footprint, seems to have been a lifetime resident of the area. A now abandoned Facebook profile indicates he attended Kaiapoi North School, a primary school located in the nearby town of the same name. He was just 21 years old when he initially established his business enterprise. In 2021, he registered a company under the name Jones Vehicle Buyers, where he served as the sole director and shareholder. Initially, the primary focus of the business was nothing out of the ordinary, operating as a standard used car dealership. Until mid-2022, Mcllroy-Jones used the company's social media channels almost exclusively to advertise the vehicles he had for sale. But as the digital landscape evolved, so too did his ambitions. What would proceed from this point on was one young man's plan to expand his company's reach and revenue, a completely natural directive for any business owner. But this endeavor would veer sharply away from traditional car sales and directly into the highly lucrative, yet heavily regulated, world of online lotteries. The pivot began in May 2022, when the company announced its first official giveaway via a Facebook post. And after 2 months of generating online hype, the company gave away its very first prize, a 1988 Nissan Cefiro. Mcllroy-Jones openly encouraged his followers to purchase as many entries as they liked. By 2023, to reflect this massive shift in the business model, he officially rebranded the company's name to Jonez LRC, with the LRC abbreviation understood to stand for Loyalty Rewards Club. The operation quickly gained immense traction, and as the business boomed, the value of the prizes escalated dramatically. By March 2023, Jonez LRC had conducted 29 separate draws and publicly announced that it had given away a total of $1 million in prizes. To circumvent New Zealand's gambling laws, Mcllroy-Jones disguised the lottery as a lawful sales promotion scheme, a common tactic where customers are entered into a prize draw, usually as a secondary bonus for purchasing something. In the first iteration of the scheme, Jonez LRC required customers to buy digital posters from its website to secure an entry. But these digital posters were little more than electronic JPEG files, with virtually no real-world value. They were also rarely ever mentioned in the company's promotional material, despite supposedly being the primary product for sale. The math wasn't mathing, and the pricing structure exposed the true nature of the business. For $20, a customer received 3 posters and 2 lottery entries, breaking down to $6.70 per poster. Yet for $100, a customer received 5 posters, but an impressive 30 entries, meaning the cost per poster inexplicably jumped to $20. So while the price of the actual product skyrocketed, the cost of the secondary bonus dropped to just over $3 an entry. It didn't take a forensic accountant to figure out what the public was really buying. Between June 2022 and April 2023, this poster scheme generated $3.3 million in revenue. Of that total, $1.9 million was spent on acquiring the prizes, while $500,000 went toward other expenses, including $200,000 dedicated entirely to advertising. During this period, Mcllroy-Jones also paid himself a personal salary of $180,000. Seeking even further expansion, the business model shifted in late 2022 into a loyalty reward scheme. Instead of digital posters, customers were now purchasing short-term discount packages that supposedly offered savings at around 40 affiliated stores. Despite this pivot, the core focus had still remained the same. After a customer purchased a package, the receipt contained no actual info about the retail discounts, but instead only provided details about the customers, supposedly secondary bonus golden lottery ticket entries, and about the live lottery draw. To drive immediate sales, the company used high-pressure tactics, such as sending buyers automated emails that offered a 50% discount if they made another purchase in the next 10 minutes. Between April and July of 2023, the loyalty scheme generated a staggering $7.8 million in revenue. Jonez LRC spent $4.5 million on prizes and another $600,000 on expenses, including $393,000 funneled mostly into social media advertising to maximize the lottery's reach. With more than 287,000 lottery entries purchased by 69,500 unique customers in just 12 months, this was clearly no longer just a small online giveaway. It had become a massive lottery machine with a car business attached to the side. While the comment sections on Jonez LRC's social media pages were filled with followers praising Mcllroy-Jones, the sheer scale had begun to attract the attention of the authorities. Beginning in October 2022, the Department of Internal Affairs received multiple complaints regarding the giveaways and quietly launched an investigation. Under the Gambling Act of 2003, it is illegal for any company to gamble prizes exceeding $5,000 in value without obtaining the required gambling license. To ensure the integrity of the draws and to protect vulnerable participants, these licenses are strictly issued, but in the case of Jonez LRC, they didn't possess such a license, just as the company was heavily promoting its most ambitious prize yet, a freehold, mortgage-free, 4-bedroom home in Rangiora, valued at approximately $900,000. Government investigators intervened. The investigation culminated in a decisive strike in July 2023, as the authorities seized massive quantities of assets linked to the illicit operation. This included 19 vehicles registered to Mcllroy-Jones, featuring classics like a 1970s Ford Falcon and the yellow 1992 Mazda RX-7. 5 additional vehicles registered to the company were also confiscated, but crucially, the DIA also seized 2 properties, one of which was the highly publicized $900,000 Rangiora house that was scheduled to be given away in early August. Following the raids, the company's bank accounts were frozen, grinding the $11 million lottery empire to an immediate halt. Mcllroy-Jones then took to Instagram to address his 70,000 followers, stating that the government had seized his assets because they believed he was running an illegal gambling operation, though he maintained he had done nothing wrong and insisted it was simply a trade promotion. The authorities utilized the Criminal Proceeds Act to place high court restraining orders on the seized assets and funds, and claimed if the charges were proven true, Jonez LRC would go down in history as the largest illegal lottery ever identified in New Zealand history. Waiariki McIlroy-Jones was initially hit with a total of 12 representative charges, 6 for himself and 6 for his company. These included allegations of conducting illegal gambling, as well as promoting illegal gambling, and making financial gain from the unlawful operation. Each charge carried a maximum penalty of either a $20,000 fine or a sentence of up to 1 year imprisonment. For months, Mr. Mcllroy-Jones remained defiant. In December 2024, his defense barrister, Catherine Becerra, publicly stated that a resolution with the Crown was totally off the table. She explained that her client wanted to take his case to a jury, but because the charges carried a maximum sentence of only 1 year in prison, the case did not qualify for a jury trial. And as the proceedings faced delays, the aggressive legal standoff would finally collapse in January 2026, when Mcllroy-Jones abandoned his claims and pleaded guilty. 4 months later, on May the 23rd, Mcllroy-Jones appeared in the Christchurch District Court, where the DIA formally withdrew some charges and amended others. Waiariki officially admitted to 4 illegal gambling offences, acknowledging that he had conducted illegal gambling and personally benefited from the offending. During the complex sentencing hearings, his defense lawyer would argue that her client had learned a quote-unquote huge and expensive lesson. She emphasized that he was deeply remorseful and had not used the millions to fund an extravagant overseas lifestyle, noting that the vast majority of the revenue was actually funneled straight back into purchasing more prizes for the business. She asked the court to consider a sentence of community detention, saying that Mcllroy-Jones had not acted from a deeply ingrained criminal mindset, but had fallen into the offending after misunderstanding the regulatory requirements. By contrast, Crown Prosecutor Chris White focused on the sheer scale of the unlawful operation and insisted that Mcllroy-Jones had deliberately taken advantage of a legal loophole. While the Crown Prosecutor accepted that customers were receiving something in return for their money, that wasn't the real issue. The problem lay in the bypassing of the country's gambling rules and regulations. And because the scheme had turned over an unprecedented $11.1 million, White submitted that prison should indeed be the starting point. Judge Raoul Neve, who was now overseeing the case, recognized the complexity of the entire situation. Customers had received prizes, but the operation was still highly profitable and just as equally illegal. Ultimately, on June the 24th, 2026, the judge handed down the sentence. Waiariki McIlroy-Jones avoided a prison cell and was instead sentenced to 6 months of community detention, along with the requirement to provide 250 hours performing community service work. In his closing remarks, the judge stated a standard fine wasn't realistic because the state was already stripping away all of his assets, bluntly noting that the biggest loser in fact will be him, because some legitimate things will be swept up in the forfeiture. The case of Waiariki McIlroy-Jones and Jonez LRC shines a light on the deeper social harm that can sit behind raffles, prize draws, and online giveaways. That concern was reflected in the company's own social media comments, where some followers admitted spending hundreds of dollars on entries. In one instance, the company itself publicly acknowledged that at least one person was spending more than $1,000 a week on lottery tickets. The case also exposed how easily legitimacy can be created online. Several high-value draws were authenticated by Rangiora Justice of the Peace, Richard Peters, who later said he had simply taken the company at its word that the operation was legal. Involving a Justice of the Peace officer gave the scheme a stamp of official-looking credibility. What began as a young entrepreneur's effort to build a bustling car dealership empire had morphed into an $11 million illegal lottery, powered by social media, high-pressure marketing, and the promise of life-changing prizes. In the end, although Mcllroy-Jones avoided prison, the financial consequences he faced were absolute, effectively leaving him worse off and making the entire operation seem ultimately pointless. What are your thoughts on the case of Jonez LRC? Did Mcllroy-Jones really hurt anyone if the prizes were fully paid out? And if so, was 6 months of community detention and 250 hours of community work enough, given how long the operation ran and how much money the company had made? Share your perspectives in the comments below. If you found this documentary informative, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more in-depth explorations of often overlooked, lesser-known stories. Who else would you like to see us detail next? Your engagement helps us continue to shed light on otherwise unheard narratives.